everybody, Model Man here with another round 2 review for you, and the first of the Lindberg models. I won't be taking too close a look at the 57 Chevy, probably not a look at the transparent Bullfrog, which is kind of cool. However, we will be tearing into this US Moonship in 1/96 scale. Definitely the Space 99 Eagle 1. Never had one of these. I'm looking forward to see what how good or bad it really is. We'll probably take a quick look at the snap together Ghostbusters Ecto 1, and then round 2 is also featuring the Chevy Rescue Van. So let's dig into this and see what's up. What the heck, let's take a look at this guy. The instructions are pretty detailed and complete. Assembling all the organs and skeleton into the body should be an interesting adventure. On the back of the instructions you get a detailed breakdown of the life of a frog in English and French, and you get a good diagram with all the scientific names of all the parts of a frog. Kind of cool. This is a really big kit. Don't know that I need it for myself, but this is definitely going to be fun for any kid whatsoever. It's a semi-transparent green plastic, and the textures on the surface look pretty convincing. I can't say I've seen a frog in person in a long time to know exactly how accurate it may be. But you get a little baby frog, a full adult frog, and I don't know that this is 1-to-1 scale either. At 11 inches it's definitely a really good size, but 11 inches is also spread out toe to toe. The organs are all done in this brown plastic, and the skeleton is done in what looks like glow-in-the-dark plastic, but it's definitely an off-color white plastic, not glow-in-the-dark. I tried that. The other stages of the frog's life, and yeah, it's kind of cool, I think, overall. Next up, let's continue with Lindberg and take a look at the US Moonship in 1/96 scale. Authentic decals, 41 highly detailed plastic parts, and 3 astronaut figures. This looks like a 1950s, 1960s design, which is very possible since Lindberg has been around since 1930s. And the box itself, like the frog, flips open, which is an interesting notion rather than having the top that simply pulls off. And clearly the box could be a full third of its size, which is always disappointing, but it seems a common thing to have boxes that are far too large for the parts that they're in. Decals are loose and unprotected. Authentic decals, USMS. I suppose that star circle there is pretty authentic, and they spelled danger correct, so that's authentic. But of course, with a concept design, none of it is really authentic. The instruction sheet is very simple. It's maybe an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Concludes on the back side. And on the front, standard notes for building a model. Read all the instructions. Plastic parts are identified by number, so on. There's a suggested painted scheme down here. White, red, and silver. Not too tough there. And 2 bags of plastic, and definitely a bag of plastic that is far too large for all the parts that it's holding. Wow, definitely a big bag of plastic. Or rather, definitely a big plastic bag. Transparent red, and not as many parts as you might think, but 41 parts is 41 parts. The directions are definitely more complicated looking than the part pieces here are. We'll take a quick look at them now. This is definitely one of the more simpler kits that I've looked at in recent times overall. Give you an idea of these figures here, just about as big as your thumb. Nice simple pieces. 4 rivet points in each one of those little squares there, which is definitely a nice detail. The lines are raised, but that's not necessarily inaccurate in this case. So it looks like the main body here, support structures there and here, with a bunch of other little details here or there. Interesting pieces, definitely some nice greebly pieces in here. I don't know how much more you could really do to it, like throwing some brass on there, or how to accuratize it, or even make it a little niftier. 1/96 scale definitely makes it an oddball, so if you're into building real space and you do all yours in particular scales, 1/144, 1/72, whatever, and this one is definitely not going to fit in there. However, there are a couple 196 scales kit out there. It's just not very common. But it is an intriguing piece, being a concept spaceship from the 60s before any actual spaceships were actually flying, I'd imagine. Next up, let's take a look at, how about Ghostbusters there? Done in the common 1/25th scale for model cars, that definitely means it's going to fit into your collection overall. And being an easy snap together assembly, it's going to make it very fast to do. We'll see if there are any parts that are done in color. Over on the back, a few details about the film itself, or rather the characters in the film and what the Ecto-1 is about. Some really nice photography overall as well. This is a heavy box, so I'm expecting it to be fairly full. And indeed, this thing is just about fully packed. Oh, hey, beautiful. Very nice details in some of these chrome parts here. Interior. Wow, this thing is huge. Standard clear plastic, vinyl tires, another bag of pieces, some nice easy decals to make the painting next to negligible, and it looks like some standard round 2 paraphernalia with some instructions and a second sheet of decals. Let's take a look. It turns out the sheet that was just hanging out by itself is actual stickers, and the one sealed is the same thing but in water slide decals. Over here, the instructions are a big 3-page fold out, front and back. And as it's molded in white, you don't need to paint it. So let's take a look at some of these parts. Definitely a lot of parts here. I don't typically pull out the clear parts from their plastic bag simply because I don't want to accidentally scratch them. But they're fairly complete, and I would say fairly standard as well. It looks like you get 2 clear parts for the sirens on top there. The tires, 4 of them, metal axles, and 4 screws to hold them in. If we can get a good look at the detail here. Some nice tread work on the vinyl as well. And over here, some really fine details on all the chrome. Really beautiful hubcaps. It's too bad the front lights aren't clear, because that means you can't light it up. But the grill work, wow, that's really gorgeous. That is really, really nice. I know a lot of folks will strip the chrome off and do their own work, but since this is a snap together kit, this really makes things really nice and easy. Being molded in white, you don't have to paint it. The red decals are all included, so you're all set there. Oops, it looks like you do have a little painting to do. The red on top, the yellow canisters, and perhaps even that red transparent light up there, which is probably not transparent in this case. And indeed, it is not. Over here, a lot of standard car parts. The dashboard looks pretty good. All these other little parts are definitely custom to the Ecto-1. Looks like a couple pieces to go on the underside of the body, which, speaking of, is fairly well detailed here. Body itself is really nice, very smooth. Nice lines overall. And once you put the bumpers on, this is probably going to be a full 10 inches. Right now it's just under that. And the internal cabin, fairly standard again too. I'm not really a car kit builder, so I can't really speak to specifics on car models, how it might compare to those. But as it's sci-fi, sort of, kinda, I'll definitely want to take a look at it. Now, if you're a Ghostbusters fan, snap together kit, pretty much pre-painted, you're gonna like this one a lot, I think. Next up, let's take a look at the Eagle 1. Packed into a standard size box, the the little sticker here in this kit collectible mini print poster. 1 of 100 are signed by Nick Tate, which is kind of cool. We'll see if I lucked out on that. This was on the outer plastic, so I've moved it here for the moment. With the cargo pod separating for display, that's a nice little touch. I don't know if round 2 did that or if that's an original MPC detail. At a full 12 inches long, it's definitely a good size. For the series, there are 3 different sizes made: 48, 24, and 12 inches. At 1/24th, 1/48th, and perhaps to go with the US moon ship here, 1/96th. Nice. A couple nice little photos, and on the back here, some good details about the show itself. Oh, and over here it looks like the moon buggy, 1 of 100 cards, is signed by Catherine Schell. So that's kind of cool. Well, let's take a look and see if I'm one of those lucky people right now. So MPC was one company that built these. IMI from Japan was another company that built Eagles, and I don't know that one or the other was particularly accurate. So this is kind of nifty. Following on the 1350 original Enterprise, what they've done is to put the decal placement on the sides here, and the back does say extended decals, and they're really going crazy with them all. That's really nice. Really, really nice. And hey, you can do 2 different pods. Sweet. Box itself, not completely empty, but certainly a lot of empty space in here. You get 1, 2, 3 bags of sprue, some standard round 2 merchandise stuff. Looks like the instructions here, a decal sheet there, and not autographed, but this still looks pretty cool. Let's take a look here. So on the back side, we got some details about Alan Carter himself, and then a little paragraph about Nick Tate, who played him. And it looks like we got a typo here. Look for 1 or 100 hand-signed Nick Tate autographs rather than 1 of 100 signed autographs. And over on the front, nice little reference. This is a good shot. I forget which show this was in where they actually showed the underground base where all the Eagles were. But going through the series, there's a lot of reference to collect if you're going to do this right. Now let's open up some of this and take a look at what's going on. And starting with the decal sheet, this is definitely extended and looking pretty darn thorough. You even get all the black spots all over the ship as well, so you don't have to paint. In fact, unless you're going to do the emergency or the visitor version, if you're just going to do plain white, you may not have to paint this at all. Even the black colors for the cockpit look to be represented right there to me. The instructions, it's a standard 8x10 or so sheet, fold out, and it's looking pretty dead simple overall. And not too much on the back side either here. Yeah, and the only painting guide is right there, red shaded areas. So over the years I've seen made mention of the IMI and the MPC Eagles, and neither is particularly boastful of being very accurate, but this is a really difficult design to do accurately. The whole thing is essentially cages held together, and while they've definitely done a nice job with this area here, something like this, there's really only so much you can do with molded plastic. And unless you're going to rebuild this yourself out of brass or aluminum tubes, there's really not a lot you can do. However, for a 12-inch model, it's probably not going to be too bad. I can't really speak to whether the angles here are particularly correct on the cockpit. I do believe that this is one of the points of this model that isn't all that accurate. And one thing I'm noticing right here is that it's too bad that the back wall is attached to the cockpit rather than being attached to the body, because the cockpit does detach in the series, and it's got a couple little arms stuck to it to keep it held onto the body. The door here isn't looking particularly proportionate to what it might be. However, that doesn't mean that it's inaccurate, because the studio model itself was not exactly perfect. We'll say it that way. The difference between the sets and the studio models, which are usually pretty different, are definitely different on the Eagle. The engine bells look okay. They're probably not going to be accurate as far as the scribe lines go. You may have to do your own. I'm pretty sure that down here these should be engine bells rather than just tubes sticking out. But there are some nice pieces overall. There's not a lot you could do, say, to turn these pieces into greeblies for another model. However, this is probably going to build into a nice little piece, I bet. And since there's really not a lot of Space 1999 out there, which is unfortunate, this is pretty much the only way to go. So even though the kit has never been remarked to be particularly accurate, it's pretty much all that's out there, and I think any Space 1999 fan is simply going to be very glad to have an Eagle in their collection if you don't already. If not, get several. These things were always blowing up in the TV show. Maybe you'll need a few for yourself. And there you have it, a look at a few round 2 kits for you. The Lindberg transparent bullfrog, US moonship, and of course they're offering a 57 Chevy ragtop in 1/32 scale, and the MPC Space 1999 Eagle repop with extra cool decals. Ghostbusters snapped together Ecto 1 from Polar Lights. And don't forget, AMT is also offering the Chevy Rescue Van. But thanks for watching as always, and look for the next round 2 video from me for you. See ya.